Broadcasting to you on WNN 1470 AM and TrentoVision.tv from the world's leading think tank laboratory, buried deep in an undisclosed building in hostile territory where evil and corruption is exposed. You're about to enter the Tom Trento Show.
Trento heads United West, a group that says it defends Western civilization against the onslaught of Islam.
And against the onslaught of Obama-slam. Is there such a thing as... What are you doing there, Valerie? Over my shoulder.
You have a friend today, Tom.
Yeah, she looks like she's just hanging out.
What's
up,
a friend
Valerie?
Today, Tom.
She's a little fashionable, isn't she?
Yeah, she's rocking and rolling on
designer
there.
It's easy when you got 50 mil in the bank.
That's right. Ooh, 50 million?
Well,
not
between
her.
25 and 50.
No, that's Susan.
Oh, that's Susan.
I don't know how much Valerie has.
But after her slumlord days...
CJ may know how much Valerie has.
No, I don't know how much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly fine.
Oh, okay.
So how much money do you think she has in the bank there, Damon? Do you have any idea?
No,
I know she's a
pretty wealthy.
slumlord there in Chicago there for a while, making a ton of money as a slumlord.
Yeah, a few $100,000 here, a few $100,000 there. I mean, that doesn't really add up to very much.
One of the years I saw her income was over $1.5 million, and predominantly from filthy stuff. Being
It
a
doesn't matter
slumlord.
because she has the influence. She gets all the free clothes. She gets all the free access. She can live wherever she wants. Well, she lives in the White House, doesn't she? Doesn't she live in...
Well, she's Barack's brain, if you want to look at it in a simplistic...
Doesn't she share a bedroom with the president and his
she
wife?
has every eating meal, every waking moment, every time President Obama's awake, she's awake. She travels with him all over the place, stays with him all the time, was the one who he hooked up with back in... Chicago days. And just for our first-time listening audience on this, it is Valerie Jarrett who we're talking about.
Valerie Jarrett Day. It's Valerie Jarrett Day here on TrentoVision. Hi, Tom
And she's
Trento
looking
here
right
somewhere.
over my shoulder.
Yes, she is. Where are we going?
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go.
I'm just going to say hi.
Hi, that's Mark. Part 2, folks. Part 2 of our part series.
Barry's Bombshell Brigade.
Barry's Bombshell Brigade. Part 2, Barack's Rock.
Well, we should call it Barack's brain is what we should
Barack's brain. Well, the rock actually makes sense in that if you listened and watched part 1, which aired yesterday in the normal analog timeline of life, or digitally available to you on what?
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
And in our archives?
And in our archives at youtube.com/theunitedwest.
And we can go, and if you go to youtube.com/United West, or you can go to theunitedwest.com. .org, and look at it there, and we can see our daily broadcast show. And also, we can go to TrentoVision.tv, and also TeaPartyCommunity.com. And a multitude. We are just
In
all
other
over.
words, you can't escape
you can't
us.
escape us. We're just all
You
over the
can't
place.
escape us. There's absolutely positively no reason
Valerie's not escaping us
that
today.
you
Valerie's
could
not
not
escaping
be
us.
watching us and
That's right.
listening to us wherever you are, whenever you are, however you are, whoever you are.
That's right.
I wonder if our Muslim followers are going to be informing the higher-ups of our linking
Yes.
the president and his top advisor to the Islamic faith.
Maybe, but for I want to tease the audience here. Later on, our graphics department has put together this graphic. Today our topic is Valerie Jarrett, the Rock, Barack's Rock, or Barack's Brain. We introduced her a little bit yesterday as we psychoanalyzed the president. But later on, we'll show you this high-tech stuff from our graphics department right here. And
we'll zoom in on that.
this is Valerie right there, and we'll show you the connections.
Right
She's
there.
got connections all over the place to a commie over here, A commie over here. Can you still say commie? Is that still
Yeah, that's politically
du
correct.
jour?
Wait till after he wins re-election again, you won't be able to say it.
You won't be able to say it.
Yeah,
right?
emperor for life.
But the fact is, they had communist, true, real world, card-carrying communist connections.
Yeah.
She
and
was-
would you
He
say
comes from a card-carrying communist family.
So, well,
hold on. When you say
really,
card
so
carrying,
what?
do you mean by card carrying?
Communist Party USA with an actual number on it.
With actually
So
a
what?
card on it and everything?
When did that become a crime?
To carry
And
a
so what? Ho hum. Who cares? Nothing to see here. Move on.
You know what's
As in,
worse than that?
MoveOn.org.
Being
Move
accused
on
of being
from the
a
facts.
McCarthyist.
A McCarthyist.
Yeah.
Going after
Being a
this.
McCarthyist is
Well, here's what we're doing,
Terrible.
folks. And this, it's going to be a three-part series that may develop into more than that. Yesterday, we actually psychoanalyzed through the available data and some other information we have, and we established the fact that President Obama was raised in an Islamic country by Islamic parents, raised as a Muslim.
Right.
10 years old, he shipped.
Communist.
Yeah, that was the bizarre part. These were, and in our big 3-hour briefing, we show that the kind of Islam he was raised in, the parents were cultural Muslims more than Sharia-compliant Muslims. So he had a cultural understanding with Sharia involved, but with a philosophy, political philosophy of communism. So we know for the analysts out there that, wait a minute, communism is incompatible with Islam. We understand that.
Yeah, but it's a double dose of anti-Americanism
Yes.
and anti-Western liberalism.
it's the Red-Green Alliance combined
Yes.
all in one.
Yes.
And up to 10 years old, he was raised like that. We established that. We also established heavy, strong female influence in his life, which has resulted in the need for heavy, strong female influence. Now, we love women. Every one of us
Some
have
of
had
them.
a
Oh,
mother.
I love the women.
Every
we all
one of
love
us
CJ.
either has or has had a mother. See the way that works? We loved
Yeah.
our mothers. But the fact of the matter is, when you have these very strong women, and we also played around with the little metaphor of Obama being an actor, not the director of this grand drama called the United States of America, and we said that those who have assumed the directorship of this grand drama, the United States of America, are indeed a small group of women, influential women. And if you're looking on the screen on TrentoVision, if you're watching on Tea Party Community, you see Valerie Jarrett as a marionette holding the little puppeteer
Well,
holding
no,
the
she's
little
the
marionettes.
puppeteer,
She's
and
Miss-
the Obamas are the
Little
marionettes.
marionettes.
And
And-
she's Geppetto.
Yeah, and so
That's a good one because he's certainly Pinocchio.
on part one
Good
show,
one.
we said
Sorry.
that Valerie Jarrett is one of the small group of highly influential leftist women who are hooked deeply into President Obama's policymaking, which affects everybody's life in America every single
Right.
day. Now, before we get into Valerie, let's take a look at Bloomberg's Business Week. This was in the beginning of November 2013, the cover of a magazine called Bloomberg's Business Week. And we're tying all of this together to educate and activate our listening and viewing audience, because we only have 360 days or so left before November 4th, 2014, where we have to have political conservative impact to bring America back to the foundation so critically important. All right, we'll put this picture up, and it's a puzzle picture, folks. It's very confusing. You're going to see a picture that I kept reloading in my browser because
you were
the,
seeing
As you
it
thought
wrong?
you were getting the beach ball of death.
yeah, the spinning ball of death, but also the photo didn't fully load. So I keep hitting my computer, and there it is.
And don't hit your reload on your. It's not a mistake.
Don't hit your reload, and don't look at this if you're driving your automobiles. But what do we have there, Mark? Why don't you explain what we have?
What we have is Bloomberg Business Week photo cover where it says crashed 1 year and one epic
And one epic
Epic
fail
fail
into
to
his second term,
term.
Barack Obama needs a reboot.
I can't believe this is on Bloomberg Business
Reboot
Week.
him.
But tell me
about
that was
how
his
cool the
liberal
picture
buddy.
is. Explain how cool the picture is.
Yeah, it's half It's half of the Barack Obama face loaded,
Yeah.
and the rest of the visual is a plain white screen
With the spinning wheel
With
of
the
death.
spinning,
with
yeah.
or the spinning beach ball of death. I call
The
it.
spinning beach ball of death, which is
Your computer won't load. Your computer
Yeah.
screen
Loaded
won't
Mac.
load.
your computer screen won't load.
And
That's
Macintosh.
about it.
And the
Right.
point they're making is that the highly technical, you can come back here, the highly technical social media maximizing Obama administration on top of
Coolest,
digitalisms,
hippest,
the coolest,
most
hippest,
technologically savvy administration ever,
smashed, crashed, and dashed themselves into
which
oblivion.
they did on purpose.
Now, this is our point here on TrentoVision.
Which they did on purpose to steal our private personal information for one thing.
And our point is that these very strong women who are, they're not just Democrats who are liberal. Forget about that. These are ideologues who hold multiple degrees, have worked in multiple global corporations, have a different worldview than we do, and are in a prime position to change not just America, but the world as we know it. So this little hiccup that we are facing, America, with Obamacare, will become a springboard by these brilliant women who are dedicated to changing America, which will change the country in a negative way for those used to traditional and conservative values. They are going to come out swinging in the next 3 years. You need to be prepared. You need to know who they are. And we're going to tell you all about Valerie today.
And,
Well,
yeah,
can
go
I?
ahead, go.
Yeah, can I just say regarding the picture that you just had up with the spinning beach ball of death?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS starts investigating Bloomberg, or that everybody who works for Bloomberg has to undergo special diversity training or
Sensitivity
something.
training, yes.
Sensitivity
Diversity training.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want
They
to
don't do that anymore,
quick
do they?
comment.
Oh, yeah, they do. I think they do.
One quick IT comment.
Yeah.
This is only a website. The UK dropped after 10 years their attempt to integrate their healthcare, their universal one-payer healthcare system
That's right.
into every agency and entity inside the country. Thinking about it, and they're what, 1/10 of the American population? Well, what's the
No,
difference?
63 million
63?
in England, so they're
63 million?
1/5.
Yeah.
1/5. Can you try and imagine multiple agencies, multiple healthcare plans, multiple things into it boggles
Let
my
me
mind.
let me
point is-
bring up
Boggles
something
the mind.
scary, something God's honest scary. We know what Lois Lerner did with the IRS, right? They basically took the IRS and used it as a political weapon against anyone who opposed them. Tea
That's
parties,
right.
patriot groups, anything.
Christians.
Let me ask you this, in all seriousness. What if they were to weaponize the HHS similar as to the IRS?
Of course.
So if you were to
Right.
go in, if you were to
Right.
go in and a certain treatment, we have these so-called death panels, and I don't mean so-called, they're death
They are
panels.
the death panels.
So you tell me, with as public as this whole system is, and the government has shown that they will use the IRS to attack people, why would they not use the healthcare system to do the same thing? If Tom goes in, and I'm convinced that's why he doesn't feel well right now, because they have weaponized the HHS
He
against
doesn't
Tom.
feel well right now because I am a woman in control of
But-
this show, and I heard him.
But in all seriousness,
bags, those
what
lifting those
is to
bags.
keep these panels and these Washington decision makers
Well-
from deciding that, oh, that treatment's a little too expensive, we're not going to go
really
that
Well,
don't
to
route.
amplify
You
your
really-
point.
No, that is already happening. That is already going on.
Well, to amplify your point, there's only two ways that this whole thing can ever work, and it's very mass simplistic. Either more have to pay in, or less benefits have to be given out. So if you don't, which we know nobody's going to be paying in, that means you have to start cutting off benefits on the upper end when people start getting sick. So therefore, that's the reason for the death panels, to make this whole thing
Well, there
work.
is another
Yeah.
component.
The point of all this is to take power away from the people. The whole idea
Right.
of this
Government
is that
control.
the government
But
controls
in
every
order to do
aspect
that,
of your
you'd
life.
have to have-
Power
They
to the
control
What'd you
your
say?
employment. They control what you do with your income because you don't have a choice. It's illegal not to have health insurance.
Right.
But you're talking about something very
And the
nefarious.
point of it is
Yes.
not to
To-
make sure that people are actually treated medically or have access to medical care. Don't forget, if we're going to talk about Obamacare, and I'm sorry to say this and go backwards and bring this up when we're supposed to be talking about something else.
No.
But the whole point of this was, the whole huge crisis, if everybody goes back in their minds to remember, we have to do something because there's 37 million people in this country who don't have health insurance. Now, nobody ever said there were 37 million people in this country who had no access to medical care. 37 million people did not have health insurance.
Right.
Not that they couldn't get it if they wanted it, but that they didn't have it.
Or they
And
chose not to have
therefore,
it. They chose not to have
exactly,
it.
and therefore the government had a duty to step in and make sure 300 million people couldn't have access to health insurance unless they did it the way the government wanted. And what's happening now, just in the first couple of weeks of the Obamacare rollout, how many tens of millions of people are already getting their notices from their insurance companies who had coverage that now they have none?
Welcome
Those other
to
37 million
Welcome to
people
America.
will be taxed, penalized, or possibly even jailed if they don't acquire Obamacare.
You think the government is
And-
that harsh?
And millions and millions of people are going to have either reduced or no medical services at all, because Obamacare is about government control. It's about adding 15,000 more people to the IRS to monitor the taxes that you are getting hijacked from.
What's the role of this lady right there looking over your shoulder?
And she's the architect behind the president.
Do you think the
She
government,
is the president's man.
do you really think the government is that nefarious?
Yes, I do. I think that's what this government
Did you ever
is
hear
all
of
about.
Dan McCall? He owns a company called Zazzle.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear of Zazzle?
Never.
Zazzle's a cool company. You could design a T-shirt, and if you have a website or something, you could have Zazzle design a T-shirt for you, and they market it for you. They put the stuff on your website and all that. And they get a little bit of the action, and you get a little bit of the action. Pretty interesting company. He designed a T-shirt recently, and this goes to what we're going to show you right now, folks. This goes to the mindset of this administration. And again, follow where we're going with this. This administration is led by a president who's an extremely insecure person who is more an actor than a director. And the directors of this actor are a small group of highly influential, highly powerful women. And Mr. Zazzle here, Dan McCoy, made this T-shirt. Could you put the logo up of the T-shirt that Zazzle
Well, that's
produced?
a great design, Tom.
Remember who the head of the Department of Homeland Security used to be?
The sexy one?
What gender was she?
He, she.
Is she? Yes. Janet Napolitano was the head of Homeland Security. Another very strong woman, governor of what? New
Very
Mexico?
strong
Arizona.
woman.
Arizona. No, was it Arizona? Yeah.
Yes.
Arizona.
And well, here's what happened. He put this logo together, this T-shirt, and it's really brilliant. Take a look at it. I mean, we do a little bit of parody on our show here.
Explain it for a radio.
I grew up on Mad Magazine, satire and parody.
Right.
This is a modification of the logo for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and it's entitled, for those of you listening and not watching, U.S. Department of Homeland
Stupidity. Instead of security.
And the eagle, the brave American eagle that is dominant on the logo, has a dunce cap
on.
It's got a dunce cap on its head, and in each of its talons, its strong, rugged, aggressive
talons,
talons, it has what?
A bottle of booze and a pot leaf.
Oh, is that a pot leaf? I was wondering what that was.
I would wear this T-shirt. You know,
What's the thing in the middle?
well, that's the shield. I can't see. What's in?
What's in the middle?
It looks like an exploding, an erupting volcano.
Yeah, like maybe a Hawaiian volcano.
Hawaiian volcano. And some guy's surfing, or what is that on the other
I
part?
can't tell.
Well, he's not playing golf.
But here's the point. Here's the teaching point for our audience as we deal with the strong women influencing President Obama on this day in 2013.
And Eagle's drunk, too.
The point
The
is,
eagle's got his tongue hanging out like he's all drunk.
the point is, the Department of Justice has gone after Dan McCall, who owns
Really?
Zazzle, and told him cease and desist.
You're kidding
Stop
me.
it.
So
They
he said
said
you
you
can't
have
do this?
violated. They violated trademark and other.
Oh, give me a break.
No, they're going after.
You got to be kidding
After
me.
him for this parody
I did not know this
of their
before I walked in
logo.
here.
That's the whole point of all this. That this department of this administration that CJ was just saying is seeks and lusts after power to wield power, thus turning upside down the perfect, not perfect, the number one healthcare system in the world, turning it upside down and creating this leviathan. This same administration is going after a little guy because they want power, they want to crush individualism and freedom. Thus, this show, folks, exposing all of this, and this woman,
They want
Valerie
to
Jarrett, is on the forefront
It's really
of this.
about enslavement. They want to enslave
want to
the
enslave
This is
people.
actually true, Tom.
Yeah, we're not joking.
I'm not
Look at it.
joking. I
There it
can't
is.
believe that.
Feds threaten merchant for Department of Homeland Stupidity T-shirts. Right there.
We should all order your T-shirts.
Everybody go to
You
Zazzle
can't-
right now
you
and order your
can't
T-shirts.
You can't insult the emperor. You can't insult the first family, his imperial family. You can't insult.
That's amazing.
You can't insult.
Can you imagine George Bush
amazing.
going after all the people that
I
did
know.
parodies of him or anything like
Oh,
that?
any-
How many
Anytime-
times was he called a dumb monkey? Literally,
Oh, yeah.
George Bush was called a dumb monkey no less than 5,000 times the last year in office. God forbid someone use that same term. God forbid someone use that same term on the current incumbent.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What? How many different forms of racist would you be
Okay,
called?
so here's what we know.
diversity
Right,
training?
right.
We know that this administration is power hungry. Now, let's get to the root of some of this power hungriness. Let's explain to people who these leading women are, and then figure out what we can do about it.
Okay.
This show aggravates people because it goes, what can we do? What can we do?
Let's
Right.
just say, if
Right.
we're talking about Valerie Jarrett,
Yes.
that this president thinks he's the smartest, hippest, coolest person who ever existed in the United States.
She
of
thinks that, or
America.
he thinks
He
that?
does.
Well, she thinks it too.
Okay, and she's the person who feeds that to him. She's the director who created that image of himself going all the way back, so that he thinks he's the smartest person in his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best speechwriter. He's the best pundit. He knows how to do everything better than everybody who works for him, and it's because this lady, Valerie Jarrett, teaches him that. She's the one who trains Mr. and Mrs. Obama into believing in their own invincibleness.
She's the gatekeeper. She's the keeper of the flame.
All right, let's
Tom?
go. Let's Family Security Matters is a very good blog. Friends of ours that do it. We have some information. Actually, we compiled a bunch of information from all over the place. We're gonna lay out the background of Valerie Jarrett, and we've been doing this work for a long time. And some of this information is new to us, so it's going to be new to our listeners here on WNN 1470. We are still on the radio, right?
Yeah.
I don't even mention that.
1470
1470.
AM.
AM on the AM dial, Florida to Orlando, East Coast. You can get us on WWNNradio.com. You can get us at theunitedwest.org, teapartycommunity.org, all those
iHeartRadio.
different places.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. Let's go back to her. How old is Valerie? I think she's like 54, 55 years
Same
old.
age as, yeah, but
She's
born
about
in
the
like
same age.
56. she was born.
56, yeah.
So she's 5 years older than.
So she's 57.
Yeah, she's 5 years older than Barack. And I'm reading now, Valerie's mother and father. Her father was Robert Taylor's daughter. Early childhood education author Barbara Taylor. That's her mother. Barbara Taylor Bowman. She co-founded a Chicago-based graduate school in early development. Oh, this is always interesting. In Chicago, I went to school in Chicago.
Right.
Known as the Erskine Institute, named after this psychoanalyst. This gets even better now, Eric Erskine. In 1950, Eric Erskine became a hero to the left. Why?
I don't know.
He chose to resign as a professor.
I know why.
Why?
Because he refused to sign a pledge stating that he would not be a communist.
Yep, and he
He
he was
refused
a
to sign.
professor.
So he was a communist.
He
Well,
refused to.
not necessarily.
He refused to sign a pledge saying that he wouldn't be a communist, and it was at the University of California, and he became a hero to the left.
And
Back
now
then
you
in
have to sign a
1950.
pledge saying that you will be a communist to get hired by the University of California.
Now, in indicative of the Erskine Institute,
Right.
radical political orientation is on the Board of Trustees has included Tom Ayers, the father of whom?
Bill Ayers.
Marxist Bill Ayers, and Bernadine Doran, longtime wife of Bill Ayers.
Terrorists, both.
Well,
So
she's-
already,
right.
for the sake of the audience, so we put this this analytical puzzle together. What we're doing, folks, on TrentoVision right now, this is what the foreign countries do when they analyze leaders in our administration. They sit down and they look at their life, their lifestyle, their relationships, everything they've done. They build a
check.
profile. They build an intelligence profile. Then they figure out how to penetrate that for their nefarious reasons. We're going to build this profile and figure out how to penetrate it to stop the onslaught of Obamism and Jarrettism into the U.S. political fabric.
Well, and also, if you look at,
Already we have the mother, her mother, Valerie Jarrett's mom, involved with communists.
Right.
Okay, in the 50s, before she's born. Step one. Now, who's her father?
Vernon was her grandfather. I'm sorry.
Right. In 1983, Valerie Jarrett married the son. I meant her father-in-law. In 1983, Valerie Jarrett married the son of Vernon Jarrett. Let's
Well,
take
wait
that
a
out,
second.
Vernon.
Go backwards a little bit to her own father, and her own father was a well-known and respected physician, pathologist.
Oh, right.
Who,
And where she was born. Let's do that.
Who was born in the U.S. but moved his wife to Iran.
He went to Iran.
He went to Iran in 1955 with his wife as part of an exchange to help set up, bring American experts into Iran to set up like rural medical facilities. And that's
Now, this
where
was
Valerie
under the Ayatollahs?
And that's where, no, it was before. And that's where Valerie was born.
Okay,
When her parents were
Is
in
that such a
Iran.
bad thing? I mean, the father is a well-known doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and he's there to help the Iranians during the Shah's regime.
Mm-hmm.
Shah was pro-American, and she happened to be born in a foreign country, like many people have.
Yeah, a lot of people on it. A lot of people on his
Right, yeah, I
advisory
mean,
board.
that in and of itself isn't a problem. But if you adopt the anti-Western sentiments of the country that you're from,
right.
then it is a problem. If the country where you're born later becomes the arch enemy of the country where you now reside, and of which you are a citizen, and you're siding with the enemy of your country against the enemy of your country where you were
Is
born.
where you,
Yeah.
And she was born in Iran. She's a Persian, and a Persian by birth.
Yeah, I don't know if she's Persian. I think when you're
Well, she's Persian technically by birth.
Yeah,
And
and
she is.
She has
Persian.
that whole
well, she's
rich.
ethnically she's not Persian.
Yeah,
she's
well,
just a
just be-
person who was born in.
At the time,
Yeah.
was the
in the
area.
Persian
Yeah.
country, and she has that whole history and culture of Persia,
Right.
and she speaks fluent Farsi.
Right.
Right.
So she learned Farsi as a kid.
Right.
Now,
Yeah, but so does Claire. What does that mean?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you take
gotta
it,
watch out for that
But
Claire.
if you
This is- but again,
if you
we'll-
take it by itself,
We're being
it's
objective,
Not, it's
yeah.
not. It's not a problem.
one piece of the puzzle is not
Yeah.
the whole. It's just one piece. Go ahead,
30
Tom.
minutes after the hour, we have established that Valerie Jarrett also now, if you're running these two parallel tracks, President Obama had a weird upbringing, possibly born in a foreign country, many people believe, and if not, certainly brought to one very quickly for that foreign country influence.
Yeah.
Same thing with Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah.
And they mentioned later in their life, one of the unique elements that brought the two of them together was this foreign country
yeah,
experience.
Right.
They felt superior
That's
to
right.
people who are born in America that didn't have
Right.
this
They
global
have this
understanding.
exotic background in
These
common,
psychological-
and also they're both multiracial.
And also, you have to look at this
Which-
from
Right, multiracial, both of them.
You also have to look at this as from a security standpoint. Say you're the FBI agent looking at this and give this person a security clearance. Would you
Right.
give this person a security clearance to the most highest position in the world? Go ahead, Tom.
Well, she didn't have. She doesn't. I don't think she is in a position where she needs any sort of.
Well, I'm just saying we're looking at it as if we're
Right,
going to
right,
grant
right.
this person
But I mean,
access
did she
president.
Did she have to?
Right,
get
in
any
other words,
clearances?
could she be confirmed by the Senate?
For any
Pass the
type
background check and be confirmed by the Senate for
Barack
a
Obama
sensitive-
couldn't get a pass from the
hold on.
FBI.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, anyway,
I
we're
don't think she had to be.
vetted or anything like that. No, nobody in the White
No,
House has actually been
it's
vetted.
his personal
She went to
staff.
Stanford and did a degree in psychology. You think that comes into play dealing with a guy who's a
Obama.
psycho?
The
Yeah.
guy
Right.
who's been through massive amounts of turmoil in his upbringing.
And plus, he's really a narcissist.
No, he is.
Which she
He really
studied,
is.
narcissism.
Right.
And she also got her law degree out of Michigan Law School, 1981.
Right.
So she's a psych major and a lawyer. He is a psych patient,
He's a psych candidate.
yeah, psych candidate, and a lawyer. So I mean, their two lives are just
Are
Yeah.
running in
perfectly
parallel.
aligning. These
Yeah.
stars were aligning.
This is
right?
this is even back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But keep on going, Tom.
All right, now it's 81. She graduates from law school in Michigan. 81, Obama goes into Occidental College as a 19-year-old in Los Angeles.
So in LA, so Obama
He's
goes
in
to
LA,
He
she's
just
in
left
Michigan.
Hawaii, he went to LA,
Yep.
and she went to Michigan.
She's
Okay.
in Michigan. Now, when he goes into Occidental, he gets hooked up with the pimps, the leftists, the neo-fascists, all these
Well,
different,
all the people he described, these are his words out of his book.
out of his book. And he got into that subculture.
That's where the pot smoking thing
The
comes.
pot smoking, and all
Coke dealing.
that. Well, look, he's an insecure 10-year-old.
Right.
He gets influenced, and we didn't get heavily into Frank Marshall Davis's influence in his life. Sexual pervert, communist. For the next 10 years, 8 years, Frank Marshall Davis influences Obama, and one of the major influences he had in his life, he told him to be black.
Right.
Because President Obama, at that point Barry Obama, was unclear as to whether he was white or black. His skin was leaning toward the black side of the ledger, but his life with white grandparents, the way he was raised, was white. But his mentor was black as black could be, a black racist communist.
Right.
So what am I? Frank Marshall Davis says, you are black. You go to school, Barry. You tell people you're black, live your blackness, and was pushed very hard on him. So he goes into Occidental and decides to become black at Occidental. And I believe he was there for just a year or two, then went to Columbia. And at Columbia, he did what with his name?
Changed it to Barack.
Back to black,
Black.
to Barack.
And he became the Kenyan-born Barack Obama for his publicist.
That's right. He
Now,
was Kenyan-born.
being almost the exact same age as Barack Obama.
You.
Yes, I remember the culture going to college and everything. It was a very, avant-garde 70s and just started getting to the 80s type of culture. And so there's that little transition. You remember it was really proud to be black back then with the big hair and all that other good stuff.
I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and
With
I'm
the
proud.
pick.
Right.
With the pick.
With the
Yep,
pick
yep.
in your hair.
And he had a big afro.
Yeah.
So he's going on that
Right.
track. Now she's over here, 81, 82, 83. She graduates from Michigan Law School. They're on two different sides of the country.
Bring that young picture first.
And let's see. In 1983, Jarrett, she got married at, so she was about 25 or 28 or so. She got married in 1983 to William Robert Jarrett. So she married Billy Jarrett, the son of the Chicago Times reporter Vernon Jarrett. She attributes her switch from private to public career to their daughter Laura's birth and her own desire to do something that would make her daughter proud. Oh, great. Why didn't she have a son? I know. Now, who is Vernon Jarrett? Let's touch on that. We'll diagram these lines going down because there's a Hawaii-Obama connection here, and then we'll go back to Valerie. Who wants to make that connection?
Go ahead, Tom. You're the
Okay.
man of the show.
Mr. Jarrett, Vernon Jarrett, was one of the first black editorial writers, columnist writers for the Chicago Tribune, later went to the Sun-Times. And we're not going to do a complete analysis of his life, but he was leftist, very leftist leaning. Do we have that article that he,
Yes.
from 82? Very leftist leaning, so far left that he got involved in quasi and real communist organizations. And there was a veneer around him of being communist leaning, communist supporting, communist thinking. Now, we're in the 80s. Actually, this isn't through the 50s and 60s. And we're fighting the Cold War. We just got out of World War II. You got to put yourselves in a timeline here, folks. We got out of World War II, and the Soviets now are our arch enemy as they're looking for world expansion to go and colonize all these countries, make them communist, and surround the United States, coming into South America, going into Cuba. Communism was as real a threat as Nazism was. And if somebody was a communist in an influential position, J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI and everybody else wanted to know about it. Well, we have in the 60s and 70s in Hawaii, Frank Marshall Davis, card-carrying communist from Chicago. He becomes friends with Vernon Jarrett, the writer for the Chicago Sun-Times, and the two of them start attending communist clubs and communist meetings. Well, think of the irony of this. Barack Obama's mentor runs into the father-in-law of Barack Obama's future brain
Right.
before they ever got together.
Right.
Right.
How bizarre is that?
Well,
It's a small world.
you know,
I
and
think
I'm
that's
sure
maybe how they got together.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
probably how they got together. Yeah.
that's probably
This-
how they got together. I mean, there was definitely a,
What a coincidence.
yeah, just a coincidence.
we got a lot
But of course, Valerie never, ever, ever carried any of her ideology of her father.
Well, she's now, let's look at her early career. Who has some stuff on her early
Tom, do you
career?
have that document I sent you on her?
Yeah, you have it there, right? Go back to the Jarrett letter for a second.
Right.
This is what, 82? What year was this letter?
79, I believe.
79.
79. Read the title of that.
It says, "Will Arabs back ties to blacks with cash?"
Will Arabs back
Hold on.
ties to blacks with cash? This is Vernon Jarrett, father-in-law of Valerie Jarrett, writing in the Chicago Sun-Times in the late 70s, saying, look, all these Arabs are all over the place, and all their oil money's all over the place. They talk about, and this is really fascinating, because when you get into liberation theology,
Right.
and the blacks trying to break free from
Well,
the social...
how about the Saudis funding his
That's what this is.
pervertness? Yeah.
This article, Vernon Jarrett says, where are the rich Saudis who want to influence America? You want to influence America? Give our blacks some money
Yeah.
and let them go to school. So he
Right.
writes an article telling the Saudis, give the blacks some money so we can send our blacks to college and
Right.
they'll be world students.
Let me just read you one of the last paragraphs.
In this article.
In this article. The new black advocacy of a homeland for the Palestinians and recognitions of the Palestine Liberation Organization has put the Arabs as well as certain black leaders on the spot. Suppose those black leaders who openly embraced Yasser Arafat suffer extreme shortages and financial contributions because of their pro-Arab stands, and suppose the Arabs do not come to the rescue. It is so funny looking back.
Yep.
35 years ago, they didn't know how successful they were going to be.
Right.
But they knew it was anti-American when they were doing it at the time.
And it's the late 70s, so we just had the 67 war, Six-Day War. Then we had the Yom Kippur War, 73. So
The 79.
the Arab world has been devastated by
Right.
the pesky Jews who have defeated, since 1948 in 5 wars, all the Arab countries. Now the black Muslim movement in America was getting very strong coming out of the Black Panther movement from the 60s.
Also from Chicago, Louis Farrakhan.
And Louis Farrakhan comes out of the Black Panther movement into the NOI, Nation of Islam,
Right.
which Vernon Jarrett is there, friends with Farrakhan, and looking at the fact that these are Muslims. You know, there was no really distinction of what kind of Muslim and all of that. Where's this Saudi money? They're Muslims. So he's calling for Saudi money. It does come. It comes in a little while. We got everything straight where we're going here?
And when was the Oslo Accord? Was that
Well, it wasn't until
93.
93.
93? So this is way before the Oslo Accord.
Yeah.
So this is actually paving a way for
Paving
the
the
Oslo.
way, yeah. All right, so what happens next is it's Barack Obama, where are we in, 83, 84, 85. He goes to Columbia.
Right.
Then he goes to Harvard, and he gets his law degree, and then he winds up going to where?
Chicago.
Yeah, he goes to Chicago.
Yeah,
And-
where meanwhile Valerie Jarrett started getting into Chicago politics in
Politics.
1987, getting her first job in the mayor's office.
Now is this a chicken
And where?
or the
Where'd
egg?
she get her job?
Mayor's office.
So she's her father-in-law is a well-known, well-respected journalist in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, Chicago.
So
he-
she
he
knew
worked there. I
She
lived
knew
there.
the melding of media and politics from a very young age,
So she
and that's
knew-
why you see what's happened
Her
today.
career was greased very
Show
quickly.
that picture of a young picture of her.
All right, so she starts to work in '87 for who?
Harold Washington.
Harold Washington. Clearly one of the worst political human beings
Yeah.
ever on the face of
Destroyed
the
the
And-
city of Chicago.
And she
Communist.
she was deputy corporation counsel for finance and development. So during the worst economic crisis in Chicago's history, she was the brilliant
That was '87.
87.
She's
yeah.
like 29 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
29,
probably
30 years old.
about her picture right
There it
about
is.
that.
Yeah, that's her
Yeah.
picture. She's got the de jour afro,
Right.
and that's her job. Now she's in politics in Chicago.
Now I got a question.
And let me tell you what happens.
For question.
I used to live there.
Okay.
When you get hired, you have to go in the back room. They slit a little thing of blood on your wrist. You do this. You say a few little Chicago prayers. You
And
ain't getting out.
you ain't getting out,
Once you
yeah.
get in Chicago
Chicago
politics,
politics,
you
you're
ain't
in.
getting out. Ain't happening.
Well, I got a quick question for you, Tom. Is this the chicken or the egg as far as did Valerie bring Obama into Chicago or did Barack go to Chicago and then hook up with Valerie because of their earlier relationship? Do you have any idea on
No,
that?
he went in there with a law firm. He got a job with a law firm. And when he was in Chicago at this law firm, they gave him the job of stealing 150,000 votes, new voter registration votes, and however he possibly could. And he oversaw a project.
That's
like an
nothing
acorn.
in Chicago. 150,000 in Chicago's a week's work.
No. It was all new voter registration.
All
It was a
new.
campaign, yeah. So one of his first jobs was to oversee a process to do this voter registration. Then he got this
Was
is
that
all the
with
same
Acorn?
firm.
Was that with
No,
Acorn?
but it was an Acorn precursor.
Okay.
Then he got a job suing, I think it was Chase Manhattan Bank, because they would not provide subprime loans to poor people. And he litigated and sued. So, and then he left the law firm and went into
Politics.
community
Organizing.
organizing.
Service.
He became an official
Community service.
organizer.
Community organizing.
Community service would have been better. So now he's in Chicago. He's a community organizer. He's got his nose in a firm. A little bit of political stuff. and what's the angel? What's the angel?
Oh,
The angel of darkness.
The Cupid comes in the form of Valerie.
Yeah.
Valerie is Cupid.
Yeah.
Valerie introduces.
No, I thought they'd met. I thought the way I heard it is Michelle was going to her interview with Valerie.
Right.
Valerie offered her a job in the mayor's office. And she had to, she was ho-hum about it. She's like, well, I'd like to talk to my fiance, Barack, about it. And Valerie said, well, why don't you have them come to dinner with us? And they had a 4-hour dinner together.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They had a 4-hour dinner together.
That's where they met. Yep.
Michelle took the job, and the three of them have been a couple ever since.
1991. Yep. 1991.
Well said.
The three of them have been a couple
ever since.
That's
Yeah, right.
pretty good.
Because I can't figure out if Valerie is more like the mother figure or more like the big sister type of figure to both of them. I just but there's definitely some very close bondage there.
I think she directed the careers and style and fashion sense. Really the fashion sense of how do I mold you
Right.
visually.
As a psychologist.
Yeah, how do I mold you visually, your personality? What do I want you to project? How do I want you to dress? How do I
Right.
want you to do your hair?
Nice.
How do I want you to
Crease
fit
in
into
your
society?
pants, Barry.
And including, which neighborhood you live in. And
Right. So Brock and Michelle are nobodies at this time, but Valerie Jarrett has the in Chicago politics.
Valerie brings Michelle in, who was a Chicago family, and she was
Right.
raised in a nice family. Went to
nice middle class
Princeton.
family.
Yep. And went to Princeton. We don't know what she wrote because they don't release.
Yeah,
all
we
the
do
stuff.
know what her thesis was on.
There was one paper that was released.
So-
What was that on? Black Power?
It
Somewhere?
was on, regardless of her going to Princeton, she
America's
can still
racist.
feel the racism, even though she was treated very nicely and she got her Princeton education and got her law degree. She still sensed this racism. And if the time ever came to come, am I going to go with white high society America or will I go back with black America? And it was a very tough thing for her that it required like a 70-page paper on to decide, is she part of black America or white America?
Well, I
guess she
want to.
decided she's part of white America because she's been on the cover of Vogue lots of times, and black America doesn't read that.
Doesn't
I
do
want
that.
to move the conversation along just a little bit. What was Valerie doing for her employment at the time? Usually inside of Chicago politics, you usually have like a side thing
Yeah.
that you're doing. What was she?
She was a slumlord,
Well,
Mark.
But before we go there, I want to do a little.
Okay.
A little carve out on Michelle. A little carve out on Michelle. Michelle at Princeton
Right.
was in a Black Power organization and a world global community organization. She was
Okay.
in two leftist organizations.
Okay.
And she and some other students organized a presentation by a anti-Semitic, pro-Palestinian speaker. And it was a huge controversy in 1982. We're going to do a show on it because we have all the information. And it was very, very controversial. And Michelle and her classmate were the organizers, part of the organizing team of this anti-Jewish
I see where you're
deal.
going with this.
Right.
Yeah.
That was in 1982.
Okay.
92, 2000, 30 years later, Michelle's classmate who helped organize the leftist anti-Jewish pro-Palestinian event at Princeton
No way.
now
No.
is the executive vice president of CGI,
What?
a company that
Oversaw?
has been hired to roll out the website for Obamacare.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
It goes all the way back to the
It was all the way back
1980s.
30 years ago.
So when all this little collective was all gathering in Chicago, that this is all spring.
Well, that was at
Boy.
Princeton.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we'll do a show on that. It deserves its own show to trace that. But let's come back to 1991.
The 1990s.
Well,
So
yeah,
she's
90s.
working now for Richard Daley. as the mayor.
Mayor.
And she's in
Oh, she's moving way up.
planning and development, and then she was chair of the Chicago Transit Board for 10 years from 1995
Oh, she was
to
so mobbed up in that
2005.
whole machine.
Holy cow.
I mean, to be at Chicago Transit, I mean, that's just like right.
It doesn't
just
get
like,
more union, more leftist than
You're
that.
right.
Yeah.
And what was Valerie doing back during that time as
That
far
is-
as
that is
employment? No, as far as she also had.
Oh, she had a side gig.
yeah, she had a side gig. What was her side gig?
Oh, yeah.
She was a slumlord.
She was the CEO of the Habitat Company, which was a real estate development and management company, which she had joined in 1995. And let's see. While she was,
Well, while you're looking, this is very important. I lived in Chicago. I was
Yeah.
there in the late 70s. You were there what years?
92 to 2001.
When you get into the inner circle of Chicago politics, particularly with the dailies, you
It's
that
the
is-
mafia. It's like it's well. First of all, it's not like the mafia. The mafia and politicians are the same
Well,
in
you're-
the city
you're
of
talking
Chicago.
Mafia
except for
like,
in the case of
The outfit.
like Al Capone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was he from?
Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no, he's from New York, if
Put
I'm
it
not
this
mistaken.
way.
But he was Chicago. The
She
Chicago.
was so bad, even by Chicago anything goes corruption style-wise,
Here's her-
that Daley actually had to fire her.
He had to fire.
Here, let me read out of something. Jarrett was known for her corruption and incompetence.
This
Daley
is the same. This is the same Valerie Jarrett.
This
Yeah.
is over the Grove Park that she oversaw.
Okay.
This is the same one that is guiding our president
Yes.
today.
Okay.
Make sure I'm on the right track
Here it is.
here.
Yes. Again, Jarrett was known for her corruption and incompetence. Daley finally had to fire her after a scandal erupted over her role in misuse of public funds in the city's substandard public housing. She went on to become CEO of Habitat Executive Services, pulling down $300,000 a year in salary and $550,000 a year in deferred compensation. So that's almost $1 million a year to be a corrupt, incompetent cipher.
All right. Now,
Again,
now
To
watch
manage-
this.
Here,
To
again, she
manage-
managed a
yeah.
housing complex that was seized by government inspectors for slum conditions. The scandal didn't matter to Obama.
No, of course not.
The sordid corruption was all part of Jared Chicago's success.
Here's the beauty of this in Chicago. Once you get into the inner circle, the daily machine, even if you get fired, a lot of that stuff is, hey, Valerie, I got to fire you, okay?
Yeah.
But Jones going to
Like,
hire you.
he's going to
Okay,
hire
but I'll
you,
see
you're
you
going to
at
make a
dinner.
lot of money, and
I got to fire you. See you at dinner. You're getting a job.
Yeah.
You're getting 3 times the amount of money.
Yeah.
It's okay. Hang in there. We got this clean black guy that we got our eyes on.
he's got
you
a
know?
nice
And you
crease
know
in his
him, by the
pants.
way.
So once you get inside that, it is a different world in Chicago.
You're a made man.
You're really a made person. Now, she is. She's got a psychology degree. She's from a
Iran.
hotsy-totsy family. She was raised in another country. She's got a law degree. She speaks French. When you speak French, that's it, right? She speaks English and Farsi. So she is a sophisticated.
She's a woman of the world.
She's a Renaissance woman. So she is moving in and out of the elite circles of Chicago. She's
Right.
taking limos here, limos there. All of a sudden, she comes into contact with the Obamas. And she gets her eyes on this clean, as Biden said, black man who speaks nicely.
With a hell of a crease in his pants.
And if
And
you,
she goes, man, I could ride
I
that
could
horse
make
to
some
the
of
White
you.
Yep, I could ride that to the White House.
Here's a quick quote. This is from an interview with David Remnick. She told Remnick the reason she bonded with Obama was that, quote, he and I shared a view of where the United States fit in the world, which is often different from the view people have who have not traveled outside the U.S. as young children, as one country among many, rather than as the center of all wisdom and experience.
Wow.
No, because they
That
are the
needs to be-
center of all wisdom and
Read that last
experience.
sentence. This is very important. This is Valerie speaking to whom when?
This is David Remnick in 2010 for a newspaper interview.
Yeah.
Magazine interview.
He interviewed her
right.
Yes.
in 2010.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. And
Yeah.
she said, what about Obama? Read it slowly. This is
Okay.
very important.
The reason she bonded with Obama was that, quote,
1991, right?
Right.
2001 to 23 years ago.
He and I shared a view of where the United States fit in the world, which is often different from the view people have who have not traveled outside the United States as young children.
Stop. He and I shared a view as to where the United States really fits in the world. Now, what do you think that is? Let's deconstruct this for a second.
Not American exceptionalism.
Well, it was wanted to destroy the colonial aspects of the United States, the neo-colonials that they called them. Not that we're actually colonies, but colonizing them financially.
Yeah, I mean, Obama, when he went to Occidental, Columbia, and Harvard, studied colonialism, studied anti-colonialism, and he saw that America is not the hope and great endpoint of all citizens.
We're the great destroyer of others.
And also, his father was a huge the one who
Lived
we
for it.
idolize, the one that he walked into the room and
But where did she get? We
Well,
understand how
look
Obama
at
got
this,
that.
No,
though.
no, what I'm saying, but where
Where
did
did she get that from, though?
The thing
had to
is
be-
with him and with her and with people like them is it's not just that they're anti-colonial. The thing is, the reason why they don't like the United States is because the United States was the only thing that was stopping communism from completely taking over the world.
Also, don't forget about
and if you're a
don't
one-government person, that's what you want.
don't forget about the Palestinian area conflict that her dad was railing about in the 80s. If you look at the Palestinian area, it is a colonial occupier type of thing. So.
No, that's very important. The Palestinian issue.
This Palestinian issue brought her anti-colonial aspects up, and they were merging between each other.
To add to that, when he was at Columbia, he studied under Edward Said,
Right.
who was the great Occidentalist.
Orientalism.
And he wrote the book Orientalism.
Yeah.
And he also was essentially the spokesperson for the PLO in the United
Yes.
States
Right,
of America.
And he's
Yes.
buddies with Rashid Khalidi.
And Rashid
Who?
Khalidi, who was from Chicago.
And then don't forget about the meeting that they buried back in the L.A. where they had the whole meeting about the Palestinian Rashid Khalidi, the whole thing. And the whole thing is just so mobbed up
Unbelievable, man.
Palestinian.
Chicago.
Gotta go to the just so happened.
Okay, let's do the just so happened. Let me read it. I got it right here. Yeah, we're winding down on this hour. Tom Trento, CJ, Damon, Mark. We're talking about Valerie Jarrett, and I don't have time to read it here.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Through it.
All right, just so happened, Obama just so happened to know 60s far-left radical revolutionary William Ayers, whose father just happened to be Thomas Ayers, who happened to be a close friend of Obama's communist mentor, Frank Marshall David, who just happened to work at the communist-sympathizing Chicago Defender with Vernon Jarrett, who just happened to later become the father-in-law of the Iranian-born leftist Valerie Jarrett, who Obama just happened to choose as his closest White House advisor, just happened to have been the CEO of the Habitat Company, which happened to manage public housing in Chicago, which happened to get millions of dollars from the Illinois state legislature, which just happened to not properly maintain the housing, which eventually just happened to require demolition. Next page, demolition. Valerie Jarrett also happened to work for the city of Chicago and happened to hire Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, later Obama, who just happened to have worked at the Sidney Austin law firm where former fugitive, next page, from the FBI, Bernardine Doran, just happened to work, and where Barack Obama just happened to get a summer job. Bernardine Doran just happened to be married to William Ayers, with whom she happened to have made it from the FBI to San Francisco Marine, along with Donald Warden, who happened to change his name to Khalid al-Mansour. Al Warden, al-Mansour, happened to be a mentor of the Black Panther founders. Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, a close associate, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farragut, and al-Mansour happened to be a financial advisor of Saudi prince who happened to donate cash to Harvard, for which Obama just happened to get a critical letter of recommendation from Percy Sutton, who happened to have been the attorney for Malcolm X, who just happened to know the Kenyan politician Tom Mamboy, who just happened to be a close friend of Barack Hussein Obama Sr., who happened to meet Malcolm X when he traveled to Kenya. That's what we got, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
We gotta come back to Valerie.
We got to come back to Valerie. Yes.